Hi everyone, and welcome to the Arcade Auckland. Today we've got a really special and awesome guest. We've got Morgan Jaffit, who is a hero of mine, an indie developer hero, awesome guy in general. Morgan has a lot of experience, so he's worked for a number of AAA studios like Pandemic, Irrational, and
Relic.
Relic as well. And then he later on went on to found his own very successful indie studio called Defiant Development. So we're really lucky to have you here today, Morgan. How's your trip been so far? Are you enjoying it?
Fantastic, and yeah, thanks for having me. It's really nice to be here. It's been really cool to meet kind of some of the New Zealand development community and see all the different things that are going on. There's actually a bunch of awesome things happening here that I had no idea about prior to coming over. So it's been very cool from that perspective.
And from our car trip before, I'm surprised to hear you've never been to New Zealand before.
No, I know it's just around the corner, but I've been to I've been to Gamescoms all around the world, and I lived in North America for a while, but I've actually never been to New Zealand beyond transiting through kind of Auckland, which I don't count. But no, it's really nice to be here.
Okay, how do we compare? What do you think about the local culture and?
So far, it comes up really strong. Like, I think one thing I've been doing is taking a lot of notes for things that I feel like we should be doing in Brisbane.
Okay.
That are it's been very nice to look at the way the community's built up here and just take away some pointers on things that I think are really good opportunities for us to kind of close the gap. And part of it is meetings and I think. In Australia, we share with you guys that we're pretty geographically isolated. So it's important to build community with the people around you. There's a ton of opportunities for us to do that better. So it's been really neat.
Even amongst New Zealanders and Aussies, I think we work really well together.
Absolutely.
In terms of the indie community, the NZGDA, the New Zealand Game Developers Association, has a lot of very close ties with the Game Developers Association of Australia, I think, and we do a lot of regular things. A lot of the association folks from Melbourne regularly come to New Zealand to visit as well, which is great. So I absolutely agree. I mean, the world is a big market, and
absolutely,
the closer we can work together, I think, the better.
And I think that's the big lesson of indie development. Really, is like. When I was in AAA and not AAA, traditional studio dev, it was a very competitive place. Like everybody was always worried about what the competition were doing. If you were trying to get a work for hire job, then other people would also be bidding for that same work. If you're on the shelves, then you were competing against the other people who are on the shelves.
Very dog eat dog.
Exactly,
culture,
and none of that's true in the indie world. Like you can be a smash hit success, and that's not going to stop me being a smash hit success.
Absolutely.
All of us, in mobile. What I usually say is, in mobile, until you're competing with Angry Birds, it doesn't matter. And if you're competing with Angry Birds, you're fine.
You've made it.
Yeah, that's right.
That's a good problem to have.
You're okay. But none of us are competing with each other. None of us are competing with the mobile titles we make. You look at Steam, and if you're selling anything short of 20 million copies, then your sales don't steal from my sales and vice versa. So the best thing we can do is help each other. The best thing we can do is work out the ways to, the common saying is a rising tide lifts all boats.
Exactly.
And I think that's the opportunity we have, and I think that's where Australia and New Zealand is ahead of the pack.
Oh, really?
Like, I don't see American indies coming together in a local fashion the same way. I think it's because they have the convenience of being able to go to like a GDC or a PAX or something like that. So they're less likely to try and build links, in Wellington or in Auckland or in Brisbane or in Melbourne. It's less important for them to build that local community because they do so much travel to wherever the sites are. So if you're in one of those hubs, like if you're in Austin, then that's great. If you're in San Fran, that's great. But if you're outside those, it's harder. And yeah, I also think there is a strong community building attitude across kind of Australasia as well that's really come out from the
So
from
size
the
is one of the things, and just the isolation, it all kind of contributes to the community coming together, almost out of necessity. In a sense.
For sure.
And it's really nice to hear that in Australia, and this is kind of what I've personally seen as well, going along through to GCAT and the Arcade Melbourne, was that everyone, like you said, was so friendly and so open. There was very seldom any sense of someone withholding information or saying, hey, I'm not going to help you because of et cetera, et cetera. And interestingly enough, with myself, I come from a corporate IT background. So it's probably very similar to what you mentioned, where if you're doing something, you're always competing against someone. So to be in this indie space, to work with everyone here is so nice. You know, it's very positive. Everyone wants to help each other out. There's no reason to fight over stuff.
Exactly. And, you know, the other thing about the games industry, I think long term, is you learn very quickly that, you know, projects happen and studios happen and projects come and go and studios come and go, but people persist.
Exactly.
Like I've been doing this for 16 years now, and I still work alongside people that I knew.
At the start.
Yeah, exactly.
Really?
Yeah,
okay,
so
that's crazy.
And we've got people at Defiant, you know, Courtney and Sean and Shardlow. They were all around at a studio called Evo 16 years ago in Brisbane. Wow. So there's this ongoing thing that lasts beyond that. And it's the same. We have people down the road who are, you know, we worked with once, we may work with again.
You know, over and over.
Exactly. My first real experience with that was at Relic when Jamie Cheng, who's the CEO of Clay Entertainment, he was a junior programmer on one of the teams. Super
Clay
nice guy.
Don't Starve.
Yeah, exactly.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, how crazy is that?
And at one point he just was like, I'm going to go make my own studio. And I'm like, cool, good luck to you. And he's gone on to become like, you know, one of the dominant powerhouses of indie dev. And it's really cool to watch that all happen.
Speaking of which, Defiant Dev, I went to, which is when I first met you, at last year's, the year before last GCAT, 2014. And Defiant Developer took away Studio of the Year, which I thought was amazing. How was that? How did that feel?
Awesome. And again, this comes down to I think recognition by your peers is an amazing thing. Sure. And I also think, you know, we are very community minded, and it's this thing of like, I don't necessarily think that every year we've made the best game that's been made in Australia. There are games I love, and my big concern is always that we make great games, and we make games that have
proud of, at least
that we can be proud of, that have commercial opportunities, that match our skill set. But the thing I'm focused on thinking about like every day is building a studio, like is making a good place for people to work together.
Right. Sure.
So it's separate. I think like a lot of indies, just a couple of people working together, and the game is the focus there.
Right.
As a studio, you know, the studio is my focus, and we've tried to make that as great a place to work as possible, and as strong a company as possible. And we do think it's a model for how an indie studio can run. I certainly don't think it's a model for how an indie studio should run.
But it's working really well so far.
It's great. It's great for us.
Absolutely.
And every studio is kind of idiosyncratic. Like this is one of those things. There's this thing where big companies are ultimately very similar in the way that their operations run, in the way that their HR runs, whereas small companies are all very different because every small company can lean on the unique strengths and weaknesses of its team. You don't have to kind of match a system. You know, there isn't like an optimized way of doing it. So, you know, I always look at the things we do as examples of a way of doing it, but I would never tell anybody they should do it the same way.
Be all and end all. Be like me, I'm God.
Exactly.
Of course, you're not that kind of person, but you are very successful as well. So I think there's a lot of great lessons, and I've taken away a lot of great lessons directly from Morgan as well, from observing how Defiant Developer has gone along, as well as getting some direct advice from Morgan. So that's been fantastic as well.
Yeah, we were always happy to walk through. Like that's the other thing too. I'm always happy to talk about our successes and our misses. You know, everything we've done has been learned by kind of doing and experimenting. We pay a lot of attention to other studios and the market, but ultimately having the chance to talk it through with other people is where we really
too, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
I think that's the really great thing about you, Morgan, is that you're actually happy and comfortable to talk about some of the failures and the mistakes you've made, as well as the success. I think in this industry, too often we focus too much on the Minecrafts and the Angry Birds, and we don't look at the 90% of people who kind of struggle through, or even in the successful cases where people do great, they don't realize that until that shining moment. It's basically torture sometimes. Right?
Well, and this is what we were talking about this morning. You know, I'm a really strong believer that great games tend to be made by studios that have a chance to stick together over multiple projects, honing their skills and kind of working on the same set of problems. Like you look at Bungie. You know, Myth was not the best FPS when it came out. Sorry, not Myth. Myth was their strategy game.
The real-time
Marathon was not. So Marathon was a Mac
sort of a sci-fi. It was kind of a
sci-fi shooter. Yeah, exactly.
It
was a Doom knockoff.
Yeah.
Like, but there were none on the Mac, so they had a captive audience, and it was good. But it wasn't Doom.
A perfect game.
But then over time, you know, that company kept working together, kept working on the same sorts of problems, made Oni, which was just objectively not a great game, made Myth, which really was, and then, you know, worked on Halo, which was going to be a Mac exclusive, and then slowly...
Was that true?
It was Mac first, and then and then it wasn't, and then it was and then it was an Xbox launch title, and, you know, and that turned into the definitive console FPS
franchise that it is today.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And all of this comes from like the same team working on the same problems over time, honing their craft and getting really good. And I think that's, if there's anything that we can do as developers, it's to try and put ourselves in that position where it's not all like, you don't bet everything on the next game to come up. You know, it's a success or bust. It's actually that iterative process of getting better and better.
And we were talking about this in the car, that with a lot of publishers and the AAA industry, that they're always wanting that one project to make them millions of dollars. And it's kind of trickled down to indies where they say, I'm going to make my game, and they could be first-time indies, and it's going to be Angry Birds. It's going to make me millions of dollars, which is not necessarily realistic.
Absolutely.
Sorry.
I think, you know, it's really important to look at how do you define success.
Yes.
And for different people, it will be different.
For me, it's a roof over my head.
Yeah. No, look, and for us,
keep making games.
For us, it's very similar. You know, we like to keep our staff happy and paid, and that is good. That's success. But I also like. It's weird. I find that indies tend to fit into one of two camps. They don't think enough about what to do if things don't go as planned.
Right, sure.
Or they don't think enough about what to do if it does go as planned. Like I've seen indies, you know, hit success and
just
completely lose because they'd never planned. You know, they'd planned for the what if it doesn't go well, but they hadn't thought about the what if it does.
Which can sometimes be worse, can't it? In a strange way.
Look, I would say that in my opinion, you know, Notch isn't very happy. He's posted a lot about being depressed.
$2.2 billion later,
but
feeling depressed.
You'd rather be depressed with $2.2 billion than poor, I think.
He'd give it to me.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've been poor. Being poor is rubbish.
Yeah, I'm poor right now.
Yeah, so, I don't recommend broke.
Outfitting Beyonce and Jay-Z for a mansion.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Small as violin.
Yeah.
Just kidding. Love you, man.
But yeah, so I think these are good examples of the problems and how isolating game dev can be, and how you can focus all of your energies too on releasing a game, and then there's that kind of almost postpartum depression once it happens. And these are common things.
Sometimes when you're finished and there's this sense of loss.
Yeah, there's always an excitement. Like I love shipping.
Right.
Like if you talk about, you know, which part of the development process do I really enjoy, I love shipping games.
Just completing it.
That final bit of honing all the edges and making hard decisions and polishing it all off. That's really exciting and satisfying.
Isn't it? It's like everything that I've done and planned, bam.
Exactly.
It's out there.
So I'm always a little sad once that happens. You know, there's a day you wake up and the game's gold, or less so now. Like it used to be, there was a day, if you go back to Freedom Force, there was a day when that game went gold.
Oh, I love Freedom Force. So you worked on that. Yeah, that's an amazing. For those of you who don't know, Freedom Force was an RTS basically where you control
tactical
4 characters, superheroes, and you can make them whatever you want.
Yeah,
such a good game.
And but yes, so when that game shipped, like there was a day when that was done,
right,
and in the box, and we really kind of had nothing to do at that point. And then you have to wait for the Gold Master to go in a box, and the reviews turn up in magazines like a couple of months after it ends up on the shelves.
Sure.
So there wasn't this big kind of online, release day thing. We just kind of went and looked at it in a store and went, that's the game. That's cool. And then after a month or so, reviews started coming through, and we were like, people like it. That's good. Yeah. But it was really hard to get that sense. Whereas now, we launch a game and it goes on Steam, and somebody has a video card that doesn't work, so we try and fix that, and some weird controller doesn't work, and so we're pretty much like, shipping isn't as cut and dry as it used to be. I don't have time to get
process.
That's right. I don't quite have time to get maudlin about the fact that it's not panic stricken anymore. I mean, one day we will ship a perfect build and not have to do a fast patch.
I think it's impossible to get anything out with no bugs. I mean, it's just
on PC. It's really hard with all of the different things. So, but yeah. So I like shipping. Shipping's fun.
Nice. And just one of the final questions before we wrap up. So it's talking about indies and the indie industry currently over in Australia and in New Zealand, and even worldwide. There's a lot of talk about the indie apocalypse. So for those of you who haven't heard of the indie apocalypse before, it's basically a bunch of indie developers who have sat down and said, hey, there are too many indie developers and there's not enough money to go around, and freaking out. What are your thoughts on the indie apocalypse?
So it's really... we made mobile games for a while, and it's really just a way of articulating that the same discovery challenges that have happened on mobile will happen in the Steam and PC space. And I think that's a given. The issue is, and we saw this in mobile as well, so there were developers who had really successful titles early on, who then spent a lot of money, because their first game made a lot of money, making a second game that was very similar, but like 3D or, but otherwise pretty much the same thing, and expected it on the second go-round to make a lot of money, but they spent 3 years making the game, and the market in 3 years changed a lot. And, so their first game might have made $1 million, and their second game might have made $300.
So this is where the success can cause a problem.
And that's exactly right. And I think, there are certain developers in the indie space who were lucky enough to be there early on Steam, when Steam was still curated, when you had to have a relationship with Steam to get on the front.
Where is it an exclusive club?
That's right. Where they if they liked you, they could put you on the front day to day. And that's a very different model. Those people have come around for a second go, and Steam now has open greenlight. There were 7,000 titles in the last Steam sale,
and increasing daily.
And that is a very different environment. There is still, the truth of the matter, when you get down to brass tacks, is more money goes to independent developers today as a result of the mobile revolution, as a result of Steam, as a result of self-publishing, than at any other point in development. But it's hard. You've got a lot of competition.
Absolutely. So. Well, thank you so much, Morgan, for coming down to the arcade, for coming to New Zealand. It's always a huge honour to have you here and impart that wisdom that you have. And of course, you're always welcome anytime, and thank you very much again.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thanks, everybody.